Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Simeon Morrow, Public Speaking and Presentations, Vienna Live with Simeon Morrow, and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and or microphone and go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which I'll now place in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. This show thrives on participant contributions, and all participants are encouraged to actively participate in this webinar by asking questions and making comments. To do so, please either write in the chat room, raise your hand, or turn on your microphone and say hi, and I'll be glad to include your perspective in the conversation. Tonight, our featured guest is Izzy Shill, an actor, writer, and director. Izzy is joined by Sean Patrick McGowan, who plays Danny in her short film, Face to Face Time, and Diana Irvine, Devin Wyckoff, Matt Ransell Jr., and Jeff Marslet, who play themselves in her forthcoming feature film, Going Nowhere. Also joining us tonight is Dr. Lino Rivera, professor of music at St. Mary's College of California. Izzy, hi.
Hi, Simeon. How you doing?
I'm great. Even better now that you're all here. So Izzy, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into film writing, film directing, acting.
Yeah, well, I started out as a dancer, doing ballet and then contemporary dance and choreography. And I realized that I'm not very athletic, so I didn't want to continue doing that long term, pushing my body to the limit. But I love performing, and so I started acting, and so I studied that in college and transitioned into being a professional actor in New York, and was doing that for a really long time, but kind of became frustrated by my limited opportunities just being a performer, waiting for other people to pick me and waiting for permission and waiting for projects to really fit perfectly with me and who I am and my voice and all this stuff, or trying to fit for somebody else. And so I started to make my own projects, mainly in film. Here we are now. So I started writing, and then I started directing, and a lot of things I write in my own voice, as in the character speaks the way that I speak. And so I ended up just casting myself in the projects because I didn't see the point in casting somebody who's like me and then directing them to be like me. It just felt very inauthentic and strange. So I was like, well, let me just give it a go. I'll just play me. I'll see how it is to direct myself, which is a very challenging thing to do. And so we can talk about how we managed to do that as a team in these two different projects. And so I started with a short film, and I was very, very lucky to be able to premiere that at South by Southwest in 2020. Not in person, obviously, but that was very exciting. And then from that, I was able to get together a feature film, which we have yet to premiere, but we've just done a couple private screenings for. So it's very new and it's really exciting, and I'm really happy to be talking about it and sharing it with you guys.
So we'll get into both of those films. We'll start with Face to Face Time, the short film that was premiered at South by Southwest. So Izzy, when I approached you about doing this show, coming on the show, you were enthusiastic, but you told me this movie that I'm more or less renowned for, Face to Face Time, I want to show it, but I don't think it's going to be difficult because it's going to probably not be appropriate. And I thought, well, what is she talking about? And then I looked it up, and it was called a sex comedy. And I never heard that term before, but then of course you watch it and then you understand, okay, that's it's not pornography. Pornography is meant to stimulate or erotic feelings. This is really meant to stimulate emotional, aesthetic feelings. It's not at all pornography. So it's a sex comedy. It's something different. Tell us about where that came from and why you decided your first, foray into filmmaking would be that.
Well, first of all, I still can't believe I put that on the internet, by the way. And I'm making up the term sex comedy. It's not a genre in the film world. I made that up. But really, I kind of had been on so many horrific dates and had so many bad romantic experiences that I just felt I had so much material to work with that I couldn't let it go to waste. And I really kind of wanted to inflict on my audience the terror and panic that I had felt in these circumstances. And Diana's laughing because she knows about all of them. So, so thankfully, this is not derived from a personal experience, but the compilation of all of the feelings is very much a personal experience. And also another reason why I kind of didn't want to make somebody else go through it, acting this out.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the very beginning.
We're not going to go into the gory bits, guys. Don't worry.
Fantastic. Wow. So I'd like to bring in Patrick, who's going to play Danny. He's the recipient of that video call. So Patrick, hi. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved and what's happening. What is this film about? Why did Izzy approach you to do this film? What exactly is the takeaway here?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be able to answer that question of why such a mistake was made. But in terms of like what attracted me to it or made me feel like, yeah, I'm all about that. I think because it scared me initially. I read it and I was like, this is dealing with urges and ideas that we don't usually honor or try to bury as much as possible. And I felt like, this is the perfect time for trash to be picked up. I consulted the city and it's happening right outside my window. And so I read it and I was like, I don't know that I could pull that off, but the idea that I was recommended for this is thrilling. And so maybe I can prove myself wrong. It just felt like I was not in the practice of putting myself out there very much from a dating point of view, and didn't have a lot of these experiences. And there was a little bit of a vicarious thrill of like, hey, what if I had been competent enough to actually put myself in these situations? How would that go? And I think just the disentangling of like how the masculine tries to appear versus actually what's happening underneath that in these situations is always going to be interesting to me.
Okay, fantastic. Let's take a look at the other at the next scene when Danny comes in.
Hi.
Hey.
What's going on?
I thought maybe you needed a break. I know your boss harasses you all night with emails, so.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy over here. I've been literally running from meeting to meeting.
Oh, that sounds intense.
Yeah, it is. Sorry. Oh shit, I'm dying. Sorry. Yeah, it is. What's going on with you?
I've just been sitting at my desk, thinking about you.
What about?
This is the wrong time for this video to be having problems. Let's see if it keeps working.
Been thinking about that kiss? Felt like you wanted to eat me. In a good way.
Yeah, I guess I kind of did.
You have your phone propped up or something?
No, it's just on a dresser.
You look like a cam girl. Sorry, 1 second. Dude, I was attached to the
Okay, so we see where that's going.
Sorry, I needed to turn my camera off because I haven't seen that in a while and I feel very vulnerable.
So that is really a difficult thing to watch. I mean, but it seems it's completely you're there. I mean, all of us we're there. You know, we want this not to be so awkward. Izzy, what's happening there? Why? What exactly is going on?
I really think, what I think is so interesting about dating, the stakes are so high. And I think there's so much hope and so much shame at the exact same time. You know, opening yourself up to the possibility of having your deepest, most precious desires met by the person in front of you who you don't know. It's incredibly brave and it's incredibly scary. And I had done that with so many of the wrong people repeatedly that I kind of took me a really long time to learn how to begin to share myself with somebody in a way that felt safe and felt authentic. And this film is really kind of showing the attempt of trying to connect with the attempt of trying to connect with the wrong person. And two people playing a role that the other thinks that they want them to play. And it all just not fitting and not being right and being ultimately leading to a very humiliating / funny situation.
Patrick, what is your what's your take?
With regard to what? With regard to?
So, I mean, yeah. So anyway, she's doing this striptease, and then it turns out that he's really not interested in that at all. I mean, he's and they're just kind of talking past each other. What's the when people watch this film, you know, what is it that you hope? What's the message that you hope they get?
I mean, I think the thing that draws me to all this kind of storytelling is just the ways in which we're all dealing with the same hopes and fears, and we all have different ways of trying to avoid facing those. And I think like a situation like this, it's just a very little reversal of like, you think you know this guy, you think you know what's happening, he's exploiting this, like, you know, we sympathize with this woman and how she's trying to present herself to this guy, and we're like, fucking guy is not giving her the time of day, he's just gonna like try to use this for the shit of it or whatever. And then to reveal that like, oh, he's dealing with his own shit. Like, he's not fully comfortable in who he is and expressing himself. And so like, yeah, that moment of it's the moment of exposure that is attractive to me as an artist, and especially when you think you know someone and then you experience this vicarious embarrassment and you're like, I never thought I would have empathized with this guy who looks like a literal jerk off for the first couple minutes.
And Patrick, tell us, I mean, it's so shocking to meet you in real life. You know, I mean, you're just the nicest person. I mean, you've got such positive energy, you know, and watching Danny, I mean, just makes you cringe, you know. I mean, it's really, I mean, I imagine excellent acting. Do you take this, you said it was a challenge for you, taking on this part. Seems like Izzy normally wants people to play, I mean, as we'll see in Going Nowhere, she wants them to play themselves. what's most natural to them. This, clearly you had to work at it. Do you bring Danny into other parts you're doing right now?
I think Danny is playing a role, when it breaks and when he has to apologize for what has happened. That's mostly me. I get found out in terms of trying to seem like I know something or like I'm cooler than I am or whatever. And so I definitely use it in terms of just the power that comes, at least in for people in my position, from not letting yourself be seen and keeping people at arm's length. Is like, then they project onto you whatever works story-wise, so there's a certain like the performance of not giving a shit about the other person is like, yeah, a lot of characters are doing that because it's how you protect yourself. So yeah, it's like in every character there's the stiff arm away until that tactic doesn't work anymore.
Fantastic. And Izzy, hearing Patrick talk about all this, having worked with him, made this fantastic film, what do you say to him?
Well, so nice. It's been ages. It's so good to see you again. It's what I'm really.
Yeah, you too.
And it's so lovely to kind of have this discussion about it, because I think because of South by, I got to play in a lot of other festivals, and there were a lot of interviews about this project, and I felt quite somewhat embarrassed about the nature of it, and like I didn't want to intellectualize something that has penis jokes in it, but underneath it is really about everything that we've discussed. And I think it's lovely to hear Patrick talking about like trying to reach out, trying to touch people, and the masking that we all do to protect ourselves. I mean, that is exactly what this whole thing is about. And I'm really glad to hear that you were interested in the part, Patrick, because I never want to write something where one person's right and another person's wrong. Like, of course, I consider myself a feminist, but I have so much love for men and of all genders, and I never want to place one gender above the other or make somebody right and the other person. It's just not true, and it's not my experience. And I think that as a writer, you have to have compassion for every single character that you're writing. And I even the most unlikely person, somebody who seems to be very uncaring and thoughtless and disconnected, even that person deserves love and care. So that is very much my attention with this project.
Yeah, and it seems like the takeaway also, when I was advertising for this show, it seems like anything with the word sex in it is a little bit scary to people on the outside, and especially when it's coming from a man. It seems like there is that people have this prejudice thinking, men, sex means that, or sex means this, and it seems like it's such an important conversation that we need to have, not necessarily about, women being included in the conversation or minorities or whatever, but so much about what happens when we're together, and communicating well to each other, rather than having, a woman posting about women's sexuality, men posting about men's sexuality. Seems to be some kind of conversation, and that film really seems to really bring that into light, that is something we need to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading Sally Rooney's book right now, and I hadn't read any of her other books, but I saw the series Normal People, and something that I find so compelling about this, and Michael, my manager, is on this call, and we had this discussion yesterday, I think, is that for so long, sex has been so taboo, and you can't discuss it, and so you cut away, or there's Madame Bovary, I can't remember the exact line, but she exhales and it's the end of the chapter, and that was the scandalous thing. And it's like, but our sexual interactions are so much part of the story. How we connect with each other physically and emotionally and spiritually in that moment is so crucial to knowing the full story. And so in this project, I very much wanted to include that and explore that, and intend to. It's not so much what Going Nowhere is about, but I've just written a new project, and that it has that in it as well.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Patrick.
Thanks,
And
Patrick.
what fantastic work. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Let's take a look at Going Nowhere now.
Howdy.
We're making a movie! Hey!
Hey, hey.
Road trip, so fun!
Hey, Josh.
Hey.
Camera.
Oh, my brother's gonna do behind the scenes stuff for us. It's gonna be great for marketing.
Okay, so he's gonna follow us in his car.
No, he's gonna, he's coming with us. Because you
Oh.
got a big old car here.
I didn't know that, so I just gotta,
He's got these, camera cases too, so you just,
uh-huh.
You still live with your parents?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude. You said you were gonna look into the COVID protocols?
Yeah, so that binder back there, that's all of it.
Oh, I thought these were your lines.
No, so that's the protocols for the state and the city that we're gonna be in, and then also just my suggestions for basic protocol on set.
This whole thing is,
Mm-hmm.
did you read the whole thing?
I compiled it.
You wrote it.
Well, I compiled it.
But I think we're fine in the car. I think I'm gonna take mine off because it's just like, you know, it's just too much in the car.
It is a long drive, I guess.
It's 3 days. It's 3 days, Diana. Come on. I'll skim it.
Well, no, don't skim it. I mean, you know, you got plenty of time to read it. You can actually read it, but we're okay because we're effectively a family. There's also a section in there about intimacy and physical intimacy. No touching, no hugging, definitely no kissing.
Fantastic. So Izzy, tell us what exactly is happening here. It's a documentary. It's a movie about a documentary about making a film. Is that it?
So big scale. This is a mockumentary. So think Christopher Guest films. Think Best in Show. Think that it's in that genre. I'm not trying to genre bend. I'm very much leaning into the amazing, This is Spinal Tap genre. It's very meta though. So it's the way I describe it is it's a film about people trying to make a movie during the pandemic, but everybody who's making the movie is in the movie playing themselves. So I'm Izzy, the director of the film that in reality I'm also directing, and we all are using our own names, and all the characters in the film are parodies of themselves. So there are elements of the real people in the characters in the film. So, but I don't know what other part. Do you want me to go into why I made the film and all this kind of stuff?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. So basically, I love, you haven't seen this in either of these projects that I've made, but I love history, and I've written these kind of epic period pieces, but they're incredibly expensive to make. And I was like, Izzy, you gotta get really real with yourself, really real with yourself. What do you have access to right now? What can you write that you can make right now? And I was like, it was almost like found object art, and very much, it being inspired by people like the Duplass brothers or Len Shelton or Joe Swanberg, where it was very much DIY filmmaking. What can I touch? And I was like, okay, well, I have myself. I have my friends. One of my friends, Devin, has a farm in Colorado. Okay, great. So my friend's in a farm. Okay, perfect. What should we be doing on a farm? Well, making a film is a ridiculous thing to do. Why don't we all, my friend's on a farm making a film. Great. Why don't I write it in a genre where it can be cheap and easy to make? Okay, well, why don't I write it as a mockumentary so that the framing doesn't have to be perfect. We won't have the money to hire the crew, to rent the equipment, to take the time that it needs to make everything look beautiful and frame it perfectly and do rehearsals and do this whole thing. We won't have the time. So I'm going to be strategic, and I'm going to write it in a way so that I can actually go and make it. And the messiness of it is the genre, is the style. And we don't have to hide the fact that we don't have a massive budget. We don't have to hide the fact that it was somewhat made in a semi-slapdash improvisational way. that we're going to lean into that, celebrate that, and make that part of the creative process.
Okay.
So that's why I made it.
Let's
Yeah.
take a look at this is the scene where we introduced Diana and Devin.
Farm you have.
Does this work for you?
Yeah, I think it'll work. Diana was telling me how incredible you looked on the horse when you were driving in.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
I used to ride, so I miss it, you know.
You used to ride?
Yeah.
What kind of
What did you
writing?
do?
Like a mix of a little English and the you know.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
There is a guy here.
Yeah.
He's been looking for you. He's
Wait, does
asking,
he have a poof?
He does. He keeps
Okay.
asking about the Wi-Fi.
Dude, you
Right,
gotta wear your
yeah, I
mask.
know.
And
I'm
I told
6
him.
feet, bro.
Oh, there he is.
That is
Hi,
him.
Matt.
Hey.
Hi.
What's up?
He's my producer.
Hmm.
He's amazing.
Okay.
He grows on you.
All good. I'll let you
Okay.
settle in.
Amazing. Well, yeah, you guys should definitely hang out. I think you'll really.
Yeah.
We will. I'll
Yeah,
see ya. Why did you just say that? It's so awkward.
I want
Izzy.
you to be friends.
Yeah, but like. Oh.
Okay, so Diana, tell us a little bit about your character. Your character, we saw her, she wants to do the right thing. She's compiled the COVID, the big COVID binder and all that. She's wearing a mask, everything, she's got everything prepared, but she's really self-conscious. I mean, you can tell she's she's very sweet. She's also kind of fragile. Tell us about you playing yourself.
Yeah, well, Diana, the character, and Diana in real life is friends with Izzy's best friend, is an actor who's had a lot of challenges and taken some hard hits, and she sees this movie that they're making within Going Nowhere as like her big break, and maybe in some ways her like last shot at really making something happen before she gets into her 30s. She is deeply self-conscious and really vulnerable and fragile. And I think that manifests in different ways in the film. In some moments, she is really tender and caring and takes care of Izzy and wants everyone to be safe. And her, the COVID protocols and enforcing that, she's sort of the only one on set enforcing it. And it's coming from a good place, obviously, a place of safety, but it's also something that she can grab onto and control, one of the few factors that she can harness and feel like, feel important, honestly. And I think we see through the course of the film, she loses control more and more. She, becomes pretty desperate and does fall apart in a lot of ways. And then you start to see sort of harsher sides of her come out, and really just sort of like a breaking and dissolving and then piecing back together, hopefully.
And we saw that, unfortunately, I missed the beginning clip where you meet Devin riding in on a horse, and that's why you're talking about horses and that you love riding English horses, etc. And so then you fall in love with Devin. I mean, she is this hero, this kind of everything that really you're opposite. I mean, she's incredibly self-confident. She doesn't talk to anybody.
Exactly.
She does her own thing. And I mean, and funny enough, in the film, you're actually her partner. I mean, you're her lover, her wife, whatever. You are actually cast in the film you're making as kind of a couple, right?
We not totally, but there's subtext there, and the film within a film, it becomes there's a moment, I won't give it away, where you see that my character, Delta is her name, she's a scientist, sort of has some tender feelings towards the character that Devin plays. That's a whole other story through line in the film is Diana is also coming into her queer identity. She's falling in love with a woman, maybe for the first time, maybe not, it's unclear, but there's a lot of vulnerability and tenderness there. So I think that's a big point of sympathy for her character, as we see like, oh God, she's just really has a big crush and doesn't know what to do with herself. And we've all been there.
It's lovely. We'll look at it further in a second. Now I want to let's meet Matt, the producer who we saw grows on you, as Izzy says.
I need to make sure you understand your job. Yeah. Okay, so what happens? Before 11 girls get in free, dude, you can't charge them. Chicks in free, dicks pay. Yeah, chicks free, yeah, you get it. Make it a rhyme. Okay, it's not a club, no, it's a lounge. That's right. Dude, I'm on a movie set, bro. Porque te lo voy a decir en español para que tú puedas entender lo que yo necesito de ti, dude. Put mom on the phone. Put mom on the phone, dude. Hola, mami. Hola, mami, ¿cómo estás?
Fantastic. So Matt, tell us about you playing yourself. I mean, I love that scene. I can watch it again and again and again. I mean, it's just 30 seconds, but I mean, there's just such a flavorful character.
It kills every time, Matt. It kills every time.
I'm gonna need that for my reel. It was so fun, making this film with Izzy, with the whole gang. So I play Matt, which essentially is just a heightened version of myself. I mean, we all have these moments where we explode, and whether it's with silliness or with love or joy or anger or whatever. And it's usually done behind closed doors. Well, Izzy kind of gave me permission to go full throttle, with my energy. And when your only frame of reference for your character is yourself, you can kind of play to the highest of things that make you you. So I slip into Spanish, I slip into debauchery, and this character is a bit of a douchebag, and you kind of lean into it. I'm looking at the clothes I wear. I'm looking at this ridiculous gold chain, and the makeup artist gave me the wildest chin strap beard, and it's a bunch of things that I would be a little bit more embarrassed to, walk around with publicly. But I was like, for the sake of this film, I feel ridiculous, and I love it. So in that scene, Izzy just kind of gave me carte blanche to go and improv and freestyle, and I just had a really tickled time, and I'm really pulling from things I'd probably make fun of in my real life. And I was like, this is severely entertaining, and let's throw it on film. So I had fun with that specific moment for sure.
Fantastic. Now we're going to watch a longer clip where Matt is handing out consent forms fireside, where it's very dark and people can't really read what's exactly written there. We get to know his character, and then we get a real clash between Matt and Diana's character. So let's take a look at that now.
Well, I think everything has gluten in it, Di.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. I just want to eat.
Okay, so.
Hey.
Oh, Jeff. Hi.
Hey, I made it.
You made it. Jeff, you're late.
Oh yeah, I had to take care of
late.
something. What's with all these cameras?
Matt, this is Jeff.
Hey, what's up, man?
This is our DP. Alec has won a lot of awards. We're super lucky to have him. And let me introduce you to your co-stars, Diana and Devin. This is Jeff.
Hey, ladies.
Hey. Ma'am.
While I have you all here, I've just got some forms for you to sign. Here you go.
Safety first.
Safety first.
At all times.
Just some standard contracts, release forms, yada, 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 boring.
Yeah, you can just sign.
Yeah.
At the bottom.
That's right. You can skip 3 through 7.
It's just right there.
This is just to release production from responsibility if something goes down. Which, of course, it won't, because we've got Izzy in charge. Am I right? Sound good?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, try to distract them when they're looking at it. If they read the whole thing, they might have more questions.
Oh, what kind of questions?
Here we go.
Why does it say that the
always.
production is not responsible if any of us catches any kind of...
I'm just trying.
If you get sick, we can't actually tell where it came from, right? So you don't know that it came from here. You know what I mean? We can't.
I don't know. I mean, if all of us got sick, I think it'd be pretty obvious.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering why that part is handwritten on the back.
Sure, that was, that's a little touch from me. Bottom line is, if you don't fill out these forms tonight, we can't film tomorrow. So, just sign at the bottom.
Hey, guys.
Yep. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Who wants some wine?
No, we're working tomorrow, so.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I'll have some.
Okay, cool.
That's actually enough. I got it. The initials work.
Okay.
Sure. Bless you. Just sign at the bottom, and I'll date it for you if you want me to. Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Yes. Are we doing the read-through tonight or tomorrow morning?
Oh, we actually have enough time for either a read-through or a load-in, so real Sophie's
You
choice.
didn't schedule time for a load-in. What?
I can squeeze one in, but then we've got to pull up the call time by 2.5 hours.
Yeah, she has to do the
I know she does. I know.
I told you.
All right, y'all, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the call time up tomorrow by about 2.5 hours to make room for the load-in. That's about 4:30 a.m. Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Fantastic. So I wanted to bring in Jeff. Jeff, tell us a little bit about your character. You are the kind of the crazy guy, for lack of a better term, who comes in late. Then you're relatively older. You seem to be kind of wacky. Everybody is kind of suspicious of you. Tell us a little bit about playing this character.
I mean, I think it's kind of fun to get to be the older character that plays. I think something maybe you get with just getting old in this business is every single thing around you matters just a tiny bit less, and you're just getting through each day. And I think that happens to some degree in my real life, that all the stuff you worried about at one point, you just start to worry less about because everything falls apart around you in real life anyway. So I think I got to bring that from my own life to this character, so that I got to play every scene essentially just like, as Jeff of the movie world, how do I just get to whatever's 2 hours from now? And I'm just not going to even start to worry about anything past that. And it's a really freeing, fun way to play a character. And I think it's great because you kind of just react to everything and you can kind of say whatever you want. And that's a lot of the way I approached bringing this character in. But I also, wanted people to feel like, as weird and strange and maybe shady as my character was, you don't hate him. He's also someone you probably kind of like in the real world to some degree, but maybe be a little scared to spend too much time with. And that's what I tried to bring to the screen.
Fantastic. So let's take another look at another scene with Jeff where it's he's having a conversation with himself in the bathroom.
On my visa. It's already okay. No, okay. That's fine. That's fine. How about?
I'm trying to get the cards in for tomorrow.
How about my dad's card?
What the fuck? Okay. Focus. Focus. Okay. Focus. Big Jeff to little Jeff. Real talk right here. That picket fence, the family, that ship sailed. We didn't make it. Doesn't have to be like before. Right, yeah. You're an actor. You got this. It's like that thing Jack says. Ride yourself first, double down, the world falls into place. Yeah. Don't screw this up.
Fantastic. Jeff, so when
Great advice. I give great advice in that scene. Lie to yourself first and then the world falls in place. Go on.
So when Izzy approached you about this, what did she say? She's looking for you to play this character. Do you normally play that kind of character? Or how did that come about? I mean, because it's a very strong character.
There's an irony to playing this character. And the first answer is, I mean, I'm more often a writer and director and professor and whatnot than an actor, though I'm starting to enjoy acting more than being the director, because as Izzy will tell you at some point in this interview, being the director is obviously the worst job on set and it's terrible. But in acting, you just show up for a few weeks and then get to leave. It's wonderful. But I get cast as characters that don't talk a lot, as characters who are kind of rough. And I think for people that know me in real life, I'm an over talker. I'm overly nice to a fault. I'm very, I was a nerdy kid who went to school with Hungarian monks. In some ways, I'm not the guy that I usually get cast as, but maybe because of how I look or whatever. I play characters more like this more often. But this one was fun because I also usually play a character that shows up and says something creepy and gets killed in 10 minutes. But I got to stay around for the whole film in this one, which was amazing. And honestly, one of the two major draws that made me say yes to the character. One is I like Izzy. I like Izzy's work. And so when she said, hey, do you want to do this? I was like, yeah, it sounds like a blast. I get to work with you. Just fill me in later on the details. And I mean that. Most of the roles that I've done that have gotten any kind of acclaim, when I worked with Josephine Decker, it was the same thing. Before I shot the film, I never even read Josephine's whole script. I just liked the person making the movie, so I said yes to making the movie. And that was the same with Izzy, that I just had confidence in Izzy, so I was already ready to jump in. And then when she, really said this is a role where you get to build a character over an entire arc of a film, I got to let my character's friendship with some of these other characters build. I got to see this guy who has decided to reinvent himself as an actor, basically when he shows up on set, get to see that evolve, that it was really fun to get to play a character who is different, at least to some degree, at the end of the film than the beginning. So those twofold things made it really attractive to me.
So this was really a collaboration. You brought as much of that as Izzy did. She said, build your character as you like.
Yeah, she was great in this whole process of saying, build your character. She gave us, a real structure to say, this is kind of where you are, this is what you're doing. So you weren't completely lost. But I'd say probably, maybe I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm going to speak for everyone. I think most of us in the cast, over the course of shooting, kind of figured out where our characters were going, that Izzy gave us enough freedom with that none of us came in and said, okay, this is exactly, I know the beats and this is how I'm going to change my character. But we went in, we started playing the scenes, and we had the luxury to essentially shoot in some version of chronological order. I mean, it's never fully chronological, but you got to keep building your character as you went. And I think that was, for Devin, for Diana, and for me, it was even fun because you got to build your character of the actor, but there was also this fun of trying to build the character that our actor was also playing, in my case, Rust. So that was also fun to get to say, okay, what is Jeff character, and then what does Jeff character put on when Jeff character tries to play this other character? So
fantastic.
So yeah, I did some prep, but a lot of it, we created on set.
And
one thing that I just want to highlight as well is that I wrote a script. We were calling it a scriptment, basically, where I did a lot of research into how to make something have enough structure so that we could create a schedule and create a plan that we could actually execute, but also have enough space and time for improvisation, for collaboration. Because I was writing everybody as parodies of themselves, the dialogue that I'd written was suggested dialogue. So it's like, okay, this is what happens in the scene. Here's some dialogue. But there were other scenes that I wrote where, like, okay, here are the beats of the scene. Here's what we're going to try to hit. And then when we got to it, it was almost like devised theater, where we'd kind of improvise our way through it. As we were improvising, we would find, okay, you say that, we're going to hit that moment, then this leads into that, and then in the in-between moments, we're going to improvise, but eventually land at this, and then in the in-between moments, we'll land at that. And I guess, if you don't mind me asking, the cast who's here, like, what was your experience of that? For me as the director, was like kind of terrifying, because everybody would turn to me and be like, well, what are we doing? And I was like, I don't have an answer all the time. But I guess for you guys, what was your experience as we kind of found those scenes that were much more open-ended, that didn't have scripted dialogue?
I mean, start. Never mind. Actually, you know what? I probably shouldn't. I'll let Diane. No. You should.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. I was just going to say that I spent a lot of time with Izzy before being on set, sort of talking through this project together, and I felt very much like her buddy in a lot of ways. And there were, there were many moments that we had talked about these scenes before showing up in Kentucky. So I felt like I had the privilege of knowing where Izzy wanted to take some of these scenes, and I felt very surprised in the moment about where different improvisations would take us, but it always felt very cohesive, and like I saw the big picture to it all So that's my own, it was very fun to improvise, but I felt very supported by the structure that Izzy had set up. And that was just my own personal experience.
I, having a complete opposite experience, had never met Izzy before, really, prior to this filming. But I put all of the credit into the ensemble. Like, there was such an ensemble piece. And when you watch the film, regardless of how much you see of everybody or how little you see of everybody, truly it was all hands on deck creatively. And the entire thing, for me personally, felt like a dance, not a ballet, but like an actual dance at some sort of party or wedding. Izzy keeping tempo for us all, but the rest of us all just kind of breathing it out the way we would like to the point where sometimes we'd end a take and just burst out in laughter. Sometimes we'd try it again and go in a completely opposite direction just to see what would happen. But the entire thing was so creative, and I think you get the opportunity to take that risk when you have a room full of artists you can trust. And really the only person I knew on this set was Devin. I met everybody else there on set. But there was just this instant, one band, one sound kind of mentality where we all decided, we're here, we're in Kentucky, we're sweating, we're not trying to step in horse shit, let's see what happens. And once we all kind of like engaged with the same creative process and had the same end goal, it was really up to Izzy and the team on the production side of things to keep us within the boundaries and the construct of timing and scheduling and the story and, daylight. And it was up to the rest of us to, like, again, bring and breathe life into these characters that stem from our own being. So it was this organic process, which I don't know how often I'll experience in my life, and I'm really glad I got to, because it involved a lot of trust, and then we went with it.
And you did. I want to just echo something he said, is that because there's not just a rigid script that necessarily has the joke, the beat written into it that you just have to hit, you sort of trust in the editor and the director that, just as Matt was saying, you could try a bunch of things. In the clip we just watched with me, I'm very happy a moment made it in, but you try some of those moments, and like for my character, there's a little beat at the very end of that scene where he checks his hairline as like a safety blanket. There's this moment of like, I'm like, well, at least I still have my hair, kind of moment as this aging guy in the mirror. And you get to try some of these and think, is this going to be over the top? Is that beat going to work? But as Matt said, we felt like you could do it 4 times, you could do it 1 time. It was just going to go until it worked. So we could throw a bunch of that out there, and the sort of loose structure there isn't where Izzy's written, Jeff checks his hairline, where that has to make it into the movie. You can try it, and if it works, you trust Izzy and the edit team are going to keep it. And if it doesn't, you just trust they're going to throw it away. So I agree with Matt. It's very freeing to just get to say, I'm going to try something with this character. And if it's no good, whatever, they'll throw in the garbage.
Let's now watch Devin, and let's get to see her with this scene that everyone keeps talking about, how things just fell into place naturally. Let's take a look and see how this budding romance starts between Diana and Devin.
Why does it just keep...
Hey.
Hey.
You're on my target.
Oh, wow. Sorry.
It's all right.
Wow, that's cool.
You want to try?
No.
Why not? Come on. Left forearm.
Okay.
Yep. Grab it right below my hand.
Okay.
Nope, below. Yep. Nice. Okay. 2 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Just gonna pull it right back onto the string.
Onto here.
Yep. Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. Good.
Oh my gosh.
I want you to square your hips up.
Okay.
Good. This arm straight out.
Mm-hmm.
Great. You're gonna pull this arm back. You're gonna anchor your thumb to the corner of your mouth. Yeah? When you're ready. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. You gotta keep your square.
Okay.
Yep. Good. Nice. Yep. Straight.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. It's really scary.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're doing well.
Okay. I just feel,
Yeah, good. That's good. Yeah, you got it.
I'm just nervous.
Don't be.
Okay.
There you go. Yep. Way back. Arm straight. Nice forward. Slightly down. Good. When you're ready, press forward.
Yes.
Just release the 2 fingers.
Wow.
Was actually really good.
I've never done that before.
Well, you did a really good job.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. You want to do it again?
No.
No?
No, you take that.
Okay.
But I'm really grateful.
You're so welcome.
And now it's a new skill of mine. As a thespian, I can tell people I've done it before, at least. Cool. Well, I'll leave you to it. I don't wanna impede.
All right.
I'll see ya.
Wow, fantastic. So tell us, Devin, so after watching Face to Face Time with the romance between Claire and Danny, that everything is not what it seems, everything is so artificial. Here we have something that's so natural, two people naturally coming together, this budding romance. Tell us, because your character is, as I see it, the sexual center of this movie. There's even one scene where you're chopping wood and the entire crew comes over and just admires how beautiful you are. And then at that point, Izzy mentions something it seems comical. She says, oh, she's asexual, as if to tell everyone, don't bother looking at her, don't bother admiring her. So tell us a little bit about this character. Tell us about this romance and the role that she plays in this movie, because she doesn't say a lot. We don't feel like we get to know her. We only feel like she's kind of an ideal or some person that we will get to know some other time.
Yeah. Well, kind of what they were talking about during face-to-face time, all of us are tending to mask our insecurities. So I think Izzy wrote this knowing me, and I tend to be aloof. It's not due to disinterest, it's more just social anxiety. So I think that's where that comes from. And then you said like sexual center. I think so I am asexual, and so that's where that comes from, and the character is asexual. I think there should be like a distinguishment between sensuality and sexuality, and she can be quite sensual and confident in herself, but the sexualization of her is through the lens of everyone else that experiences sexual attraction. So you kind of said budding romance there, where I'm doing something that to me is absolutely platonic. And so perhaps I feel more comfortable with close proximity because it is not filtered through the lens of sexuality. Where Diana feels much more like, oh wow, she's touching my hips, or we're very close, our faces are very close, and I'm very much just teaching her how to shoot a bow and arrow, which is a lot of my experience. And I almost had to kind of learn getting into teenage years and adulthood that other people might view and filter your sensuality or your confidence or and might like view it and receive it through like a amorous advancement or something. So yeah, I think it's interesting to have a character who is so sexualized, who is asexual, because it does bring the nuance. It's a tricky one because I don't think the vocabulary of asexuality is like in the cultural lexicon. So how do we bring an asexual character without explicitly, literally saying the words what asexuality is? How do we like show, don't tell? So it was an interesting kind of collaboration with Izzy on how to kind of bring my asexuality into it, how to bring the nuance in, because you can be a hypersexual asexual. Asexuality has nothing to do with libido or sensuality. You can be in a relationship, it has to do with sexual attraction. So yeah, there's a lot of nuance there that we tried to kind of bring layers to without explicitly saying it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just really want to say like thank you so much to Devin for like allowing me to speak openly about something that's obviously incredibly personal and really misunderstood by so many people. I mean, this was as Devin said, very much a collaboration of trying to discuss this topic in a way that was both respectful to Devin, but also really true to what I'd observed as her experience. Because so many people I've seen them gaslight her and just say that you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe perhaps you just haven't had the experience that you needed. And it's like, you're not listening. And so I wanted to be able to show Devon's experience, since we're all playing versions of ourselves, right? So this is very much from what I know of Devon and what she and I have discussed, like very much part of who she is. And I wanted to include that in the film, and also in a respectful way, make the joke is everybody's in love with Devon. That's the joke of the film, but Devon's entirely unavailable. So yeah.
Wow. So
I
think
also would like to submit. I'd like to submit a campaign for Matt to be the sexual center of this show. I just think his character is really misunderstood, and I just personally feel like if you rewatch all of my clips, there's a lot of sexual energy that we haven't tapped into. But that's for episode 2. We can do that on the next live stream. Don't worry.
Fantastic.
You wouldn't let me do a topless, you want to keep that robe on, Matt, in the scene where you're supposed to come out of the shower.
Yeah.
That's on you.
My mom is extraordinarily Catholic, so I'm just really trying to maintain all of my worlds in order. But maybe on the next one, maybe in the next sexual comedy, we can talk about that. So
You got it. We'll discuss.
Well, our viewers have a lot to look forward to in the film, and especially then they'll also see that that tension, that sexual tension, some might call it, that Devon's talking about, and how the film inside the film has a so-called happy ending, how everything comes together in the end. It's all going to be very, very interesting. For our last clip, let's take a look at Izzy herself. And this is kind of an answer to where we began the show, where it was Izzy very nervous talking to Danny on the other end of the phone. Here is Izzy talking to somebody, we don't know whom, about making her movie. This is her big soliloquy.
Good morning. Guess what day it is today? It's the first day of my movie! And I'm just, I'm just really happy. I'm really happy. I have been on sets for 10 years as the assistant to somebody else, and guess what? Not anymore! This time, it's my set. And I'm not an assistant. It's so good. I'm so happy. If I can do it, so can you. Keep going.
Fantastic. Wow. So let's see how we can watch the movie. Here we are.
Great question. Yes. Okay, so yeah, the movie's not out yet. We just finished it. We're about to premiere it at a couple festivals. We're very excited. We're still deciding and all this kind of stuff. We have to sell the film, and then we will know where it will be. So right now we can't announce it because we personally don't even know. But you can, I think Simeon is very generously gonna show you where on Instagram and things you can follow us, so that we'll announce these things. I'm not fancy on Instagram. I just have an account and take bad photos and put them there. But if you'd like to know, it'll be up there.
So here is Izzy's her own Instagram account, and then the other one, Izzy, I'm having trouble bringing this up right now, but it is Going Nowhere Movie. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to put this here.
If anybody's located in Los Angeles, we'll be doing a screening in LA soon. So you can reach out and we can put you on the invite list. And we'd be happy to share the film with you in LA. But we just did a screening in Louisville, Kentucky, where we shot the film this past week, and it went super well. So we're really excited to share it with a larger audience very soon.
Fantastic. So thank you so very much to Izzy Shill, to Sean Patrick McGowan, Diana Irvine, Devin Wyckoff, Matt Ransdell Jr., and Jeff Marslet.
Thank you for having us, Simeon. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
So let's take a look at what's coming up next Wednesday. We have here Tanya Tompkins. What are period instruments to classical music? Cellist Tanya Tompkins performs classical music on two different instruments, one called period, the other called modern. Both instruments are crafted from the same kind of wood and have 4 strings. Except for the convex shape of her period bow, non-connoisseurs would have a hard time telling the two apart. So what makes for a period or modern performance? Is it Tanya's instrument choice or her performance style? And does that dichotomy imply a right and a wrong classical music? Questions aside, period instrument performances are a Western classical music phenomenon, and we have an exclusive opportunity to get to know what it's all about from one of its pioneers. Come welcome Tanya to our show for a look at her artistry and directorship of the West Coast period instrument Valley of the Moon Music Festival. As always, all information about upcoming shows may be found at www.simeonmora.com. Once again, that's Tanya Tompkins. What are period instruments to classical music? Once again, thank you so very much to Izzy Shill, Sean Patrick McGowan, Diana Irvine, Devin Wyckoff, Matt Ransell Jr., and Jeff Marslet. Thank you very much to Professor Lino Rivera, and thanks most of all to you, our participants who make it all worthwhile. From New London, New Hampshire, Los Angeles, and the Bay Area, California, goodbye, and see you next Wednesday.